Recently, I made a presentation on YouTube about wax. I learned that bees can make beeswax from honey. Wow, this is like turning lead into gold. Is this alchemy, or is there another explanation? In 1990, Hepburn and colleagues wrote an article in the Journal of Apidology in 1991 regarding the synthesis and secretion of beeswax by honeybees. In the article, they described something of the biochemistry of wax synthesis and suggested where in the body of the honeybee the beeswax was made. They and other scientists have noted that the functions for which a bee is responsible varies with age. For example, young bees care for the larvae in the hive, while older bees look for nectar and pollen. Hepper notes that wax secretion in a bee begins when the bee is slightly less than 1 week old. It peaks at about 2 weeks of age and then decreases. Hepburn then goes on to postulate that the organic compound acetate is taken up by a cell called an enocyte. That's OENOCYTE. And this cell takes the acetate and synthesizes the hydrocarbons in beeswax. Interestingly, some authors have indicated honey is converted to beeswax in fat cells. Hepburn goes on to point out that the organelle in the cell called smooth endoplasmic reticulum is essential in insects in synthesizing lipids. The amount of smooth endoplasmic reticulum in enocytes is abundant when the bee is secreting wax actively and then decreases as the bee decreases wax secretion. One might ask, how does the bee convert honey, which contains primarily sugars such as glucose, seen on the left, to wax, which contains a complex mixture of long-chain hydrocarbons, examples of which are shown on the right? Hepburn suggests that this process starts with acetate. So, how might the bee obtain quantities of acetate to produce long-chain hydrocarbons? Quantities of acetate can be obtained through the process of glycolysis, which is shown here, in which glucose at the top is broken down into the 3-carbon hydrocarbon pyruvate shown at the bottom. After glucose is metabolized to pyruvate, it may be metabolized further to acetate, which is a 2-carbon hydrocarbon, and ultimately to acetyl-CoA, which is acetate attached to the coenzyme A. Acetyl-CoA can then be converted to melanyl-CoA, which has 3 carbons. Melanyl-CoA can then donate 2 carbons to the growing fatty acid chain, which is then incorporated into beeswax. The process may not be alchemy, but it is impressive.